I found it very refreshing, and I really appreciated the way that they went about representing strong females in this movie. It was not the woke, in your face type of representation that we are used to a lot of movies doing these days. In my opinion, those often miss the mark because, well, for one thing, it will always have the female character explain somehow, like say out loud to the audience how amazing and badass she is for being a strong, independent woman. And I feel like if you have to have this character say it from their mouths, that's not good script writing. It's actually very annoying and it feels very forced. And so I feel like there was a little bit of that in Indiana Jones, where Helena Shaw, there was that one scene, they were in the rickshaw and then she was kind of like arguing back and forth with Indy, and she was saying, well, you know, didn't I turn out good? Like, I'm smart, resourceful, beautiful. It just made me roll my eyes, because why do you have to say that? If you actually are smart, resourceful, and beautiful, and all those things, which she could be, there's nothing wrong with writing female characters that are smart and beautiful and resourceful. But if they have to, the moment that it comes out of their mouths, it makes you doubt it, right? People who are actually powerful and smart, they're not insecure enough to the point where they have to remind people of that so overtly. So that was one thing that I found very annoying about Indiana Jones, but I still enjoyed Indiana Jones. And then also another thing that happens a lot is that those female characters are portrayed as they're smart, they're supposed to be better than men at everything, they outsmart men, they can belittle men, but then at the same time they also are just completely absolved of any personal responsibility, right? Like, they cannot make a mistake, which in my opinion is also not, doesn't do any favors to true female representation in film. And so I feel like for both Top Gun and Mission Impossible, I was very happy to see that the female characters were represented as like very strong, independent, and resourceful in the correct way, in my opinion. It was non-preachy. I didn't get the sense that someone was trying to shove their form of extreme feminism down my throat. They just showed, right, through the people's actions and through the plot, the complexities of these female characters. So first of all 4 female leads in the Dead Reckoning Part 1, I found all of their characters and the actresses very, very likable and relatable, which is saying a lot because there's 4. We're not just talking about 1 or 2. There were 4. So there was Ilsa, who I know is a series, a long time member of the IMF, but it's the first time that I've been introduced to her in this movie. And then there's the new one. Oh my god, I'm gonna forget everyone's names. Grace, right? So she's the newest recruit. And then there is that assassin girl who is played by Pom. I never can get her last name right, so I'm not gonna try, but Pom, she's half Korean, I believe. And then who's the other one? The villain, the White Widow, who is played by such a fabulous actress. That actress, Vanessa Kirby, I think, gives off such goddess vibes. I was totally here for it. So like all 4 of them, I found them to be very, very compelling, very fleshed out, well-rounded characters. You don't get the sense that like the actors are trying to shove a message down your throat. Oh, you know, all women are amazing and beautiful and can do no wrong. No, that's not what women are, right? Women are human beings first and foremost, just like men. So I love how in this movie we have women who are good, women who are evil, women who kind of toe the line. They are dealing with their own internal conflict of whose side they're trying to be on, or like what action they should take next, you know. And you see them in the moment dealing with that moral dilemma, and sometimes they choose right, sometimes they choose the wrong side. It's just a very human tendencies that they deal with, just like men. Spoiler alert, women kill men in this movie and men kill women. And then there's also that scene where in the final chase train wreck sequence, which by the way was the most like, that was the most tense and high stakes train wreck that I've ever seen in my life. I felt exhausted at the end of it, which I think that's an indication that the movie makers did their job, because it was just like never ending. Essentially what happened, so don't watch if you don't want spoilers, but essentially what happens is that the bridge that the train is supposed to cross over has gotten bombed. So the bridge is down and the train, they're able to break it, but it's still kind of going, like the rest of the velocity that's left in the train is like pushing it to the bridge. So then Grace and Ethan are having to basically race towards the back of the train before their car is the next one to fall off the cliff, right? And you see them like literally racing through the train cars as each train car kind of breaks off and then falls off down the cliff. And it's just like the most visually gripping scene that I've seen in a while. So during that scene, you can see that it shows Grace being scared, right? Genuinely scared. And it's not like she can't be scared because she's a woman, you know? Like, oh, because she's a woman, she's just so strong and she's courageous and not afraid of anything. No, it shows her being like, of course she's gonna be scared. She's the newest recruit into this impossible mission force. She didn't necessarily even want to join in the first place, but they gave her the choice. They said, you know, if you want to join, this is what you do when you're on the train, when you reach this discussion with that person, Kittredge, I think is his name. And so, like, we don't even know until that moment on the train whether or not she's decided to join them or if she's going to decide to completely betray them. We don't know. But then, yeah, when Hunt finally shows up onto the train to help her, you can see that she's visibly scared, you know, and she's visibly like looking to him for guidance, right? During that, I think the most tense part of the movie is when they ran through a few cars already that have already, the previous boxcar that they were in had already fallen off down the cliff. And then like the last one that they're in, it's pretty much vertical. So they're like hanging onto whatever furniture or foothold that they can grasp and trying to climb themselves up at a completely 90-degree vertical angle so that they can get to the boxcar that's actually on top of the cliff. You see in that sequence, she's like really hanging on for her life, right? Like both Ethan and her, they have like one hand on a handlebar somewhere and everything's straining and about to snap off at any second. But Ethan is coaching her through it, right? He's like, okay, listen, don't look down. You have to listen to me, right? You trust me. So let me tell you what to do. He's giving her instructions on how to basically get up and not fall to her bloody, horrible death. And so she's like listening to him and she's really, you know, she's scared, but she's listening to him. She's respecting him. Obviously, he has more experience than her in this line of work. And there was no weirdness about having to prove that she knows better than him, even though he's the veteran in this scenario. So of course he would know better on how to save them. So there was none of that. I like that they showed that, yeah, if a man is doing what he's supposed to do and acting in a virtuous way, then it's absolutely okay and it should be encouraged for a woman to respect that man and take his lead, which is exactly what happened. Even earlier in the movie where they did that where they did that car chase in Venice in the yellow Fiat, which was like really hilarious, and then they're like handcuffed to each other, so don't ask how that happened. But and it shows that Grace is like not a good driver, right? Which I'm so glad that they went there, even though that was like kind of a small comic relief portion. I feel like, you know, this day and age, people are so sensitive. The super feminists would have been like, no, that's sexist to portray women as being bad drivers. But I mean, like, women do tend to be bad drivers a lot of the time. It's not to say that it's not like we're saying that men are better drivers or women are better drivers. It's just that I'll speak for myself, right? I am not a good driver. Like, I crashed my mom's car within the first 24 hours of getting my driver's license, which was when I was 20, by the way. So I didn't even get it at the normal age that you're supposed to, at like 17. When I finally did get it, that was my second time taking the test. So I failed the first time. So I'm the living example of the stereotype that women can't drive well, and that's fine because it's the truth, right? So I'm glad that they didn't shy away from making a joke like that, right? And then even Grace herself, she wasn't trying to prove anything. At one point, she gets out of the car and kind of forces Ethan into the driver's seat, and she's like, no, look, listen, you're gonna drive from now on. And even though like the handcuff makes it very inconvenient for them to be in that formation, but that's just how it goes down sometimes.